This is part 3 of episode 32 of the Psychotherapist Podcast. In this part of the episode, Sir Bobbert and I discuss how and why women are attracted to psychopaths. And I don't mean your friend who gets a little intense when he drinks too much. I mean full-on terrorists, mass murderers, bombing children, psychopaths that can still get a date. We discussed that phenomenon. We discussed the good old days of 60s rock and roll. We psychoanalyzed Jim Morrison and come to a scientific consensus on his entire persona. And we end this part with a little discussion about a pod I like to listen to cheer me up every now and then, Kill Tony. This is the Psychotherapist Podcast. Thank you for listening. Peace out. To work with smaller episodes, our recording links. So we're back on again.
Okay.
All right. What were you gonna ask?
Do your paramours follow you for the most part in terms of the subject matter you're talking about?
Well, the thing is with Puerto Rico is that we're on a break and everything, so we don't talk a lot. But I mean, intellectually, she's bright and everything, and I feel like we could talk about whatever. So, and then with Cleo, so I've been kind of avoiding that kind of stuff.
Okay.
At least initially. And we just talk about a lot of other different things and send a lot of memes and music and funny clips or whatever.
Okay.
And but I asked her the other day, does she happen to care about news and politics at all? And she said yes. And I said, well, is it cool if I just rant every now and then? You don't have to agree with any of it. And she's like, that's cool. So,
okay.
I haven't gone into anything specific with her yet, but I feel like I could be comfortable bringing it up, on a FaceTime call or whatever. And I don't think she's a dummy. I don't get that sense. So, and also she's, quite young, so I'm just kind of always interested to get different people's, different perspectives on things. So I'll, I joked to her that my family sees me as a far-right lunatic, but then I sent her my political compass, which shows me basically I have a pinky toe to the left economically, and more libertarian inclination. So I was like, yeah, super far right, bro.
Okay, she could follow all this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking in general terms, and I'm thinking that more males listen to podcasts than females.
Well, I will say I don't know about all podcasts, but I will definitely bet that way more women are into the crime podcasts. You know what I mean?
Women follow. Yeah, I was about to say the women like the true crime.
Love it.
The rom-coms and some of that stuff. But the stuff that the people you watch, listen to, that I watch and listen to, are not stuff that most females are interested in.
Right.
Especially younger females.
Right. Yeah.
My daughters and their friends have absolutely no interest in any of that content, unless it's conspiracy theory stuff. They do have a tendency to be interested in that.
It is funny. A lot of women who are apolitical love conspiracy theories, and it's just funny to me that also, just to go back to the true crime whatever thing, women seem to love psychopaths.
Exactly.
Man, we'll do some research next time and psychoanalyze all of womanhood here on this show.
Yeah.
Just to
I'd love to look at that show, Criminal Minds, and look at its history in terms of viewership and see what percentage was male and female.
Yeah. But do you know what I'm talking about with the weird psychopath love? Remember the Tsarnaev boys?
Oh yeah.
The younger one, whatever. I remember I couldn't believe it, but I, heard multiple times all these women were like, "Oh my God, he's kind of cute." I'm like,
Oh yeah, he's adorable. You know,
it's like he just bombed like 100 people.
doesn't matter.
The
Yeah.
Are women just psychopaths? Is that like just how you?
Well,
Is that how you spot them out? Is that how you
well, I
like
think
get
that
them to raise their hands?
So caught into the the physical appearance of a Jim Morrison that they wouldn't stop to think about how deviant he was. Really,
He could shoot. Che Guevara could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue as long as he was cute.
Yeah, as long as he wore the beret and
Looked handsome. Looked good for those cameras.
And Jim Morrison, the pictures, the best pictures of him are always the ones with the hair flying and blowing gently into the breeze. And,
when he's in his skinny mode.
yeah.
Because
he was in his skinny mode. There aren't a lot of pictures of him in his fat mode.
Well, he would fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little like that, I think. As the seasons, as the fall comes, my belly gets a little bigger for the winter just to keep me warm, and then summer I slim down a little bit until like the beers come out, and then the beer gut comes back. But cycle of life. Whoop.
That's an interesting theory, but that wouldn't apply to him since he always lived in California.
I'm sorry, apply to who?
The seasonal changes wouldn't apply to him because he always lived in California.
No, who? Who are we talking about?
Jim Morrison.
Oh, Morrison. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was digging through some old books the other day. I did a whole book report on this one book I wrote about him. And it's just funny because my whole takeaway from that project was like how bullshit like idealistic liberalness can be, because like I think the point of the essay was to talk about this person or this event's impact on the world or its sphere or whatever. And when talking about Jim Morrison, and I only read this one book, so that doesn't make me a scholar on his whole life by any means. But for one thing, plenty of people argued he was kind of an asshole.
Basically, he was, yes.
And
I think there's a consensus there.
Scientific, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just remember seeing all these comments from my teacher or whatever. Like I would write stuff like, well, he was the voice of a generation, and she would be like, well, what did he actually do? And I was like, he captured the spirit of his times, man.
Is that the kind of lingo you'd use?
I mean, I didn't know how to. I think I kind of misunderstood the assignment a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Maybe, I don't know. But,
so what would she? What were some of her? How would she comment?
Well, I think her point was it's just like if we're talking about someone making an impact or influence or whatever, let's think about concrete, actual things. Did he build a school in Vietnam?
Right.
So that kind of was like an interesting, that sort of moment for me as far as like, oh yeah, maybe these rock stars ain't shit.
Uh-huh.
So thanks, Mrs. Wilson or whatever her name was. I can't even remember.
So what did she give you for grade?
I think I got like a B or a B minus or something on that one.
Not bad.
Yeah, I don't give a crap. I got into college.
Right. But it sounds like she was making this valid point based, on her, I don't know, it's hard to say, her perception of how you should have written that should have been based on fact, for instance. What proves, how do you prove your point, Well, you could say it's because, he packs, every time he does a concert, he packs the auditorium. People go crazy, buy his records, they sing his lyrics.
And honestly, I could have, sorry to cut you off, but it really just occurred to me, like, I think it was just kind of the focus of the book and everything, but just as I'm thinking about it now, you could probably make all kinds of arguments about, like, things about censorship and, like, because he was on the Letterman show and, they said, don't say higher, and he looks right. I loved, like, I heard in the book that he was, like, kind of just did it casually the way he would in any, concert, but in the movie, he just looks dead into the camera, and he's so trollish when he does it. I love it. And they're like, son of a bitch, he did it. So, And he had songs like The Unknown Soldier or whatever, but, you know, how do you really quantify how an anti-war song did anything?
Exactly.
You know? Doesn't mean that it's valueless, but, you know, we're talking about a musician here, so it's like, what do you fucking want from him?
Right, and Ray Manzarek would have argued that he wrote that song and not Morrison.
What was his name?
Ray Manzarek. He was the keyboard player.
That's
basically the glue that kept that little group together.
Yeah, Ray Manzarek,
Manzarek. Yeah.
Whatever the hell his name is. I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Guy with the glasses.
Yeah. When I went to see Morrison and he passed out and they carried him off the stage, after the second song, Manzarek finished the concert, singing the singing parts for the concert.
Man, really, wow.
Those are the days.
To me, that's such kind of such a bad look as far as your job is that, you know, if you can, that's the thing about like only lead singers. On one hand, they feel like indispensable, and on the other hand, totally dispensable.
Exactly.
You know?
And that was the charm of that era, of those 60s, you know, the bands that were hot and were touring, was that, you know, you didn't talk about, oh, it was the greatest show I've ever seen. You talked about, oh, it was crazy, you know.
Yeah.
The Who blew up the drums, and he fell through the drums, and the second song passed out. They had to shut down the concert, you know.
Jim,
those were the high points. It wasn't necessarily the music. It was the shit that went on, you know, on stage or behind the stage.
It was all the shenanigans.
All the shenanigans, yeah.
Yeah, like Jim Morrison would just come out on stage halfway through the concert, be like, "Guess what, everyone? This fucking asshole cop just pepper sprayed me right in my fucking eyes. Boo!"
Yeah, exactly.
Good man. I really wish I'd lived through that era. Were concerts generally like, you know, more like we've had issues in recent years with I can't remember that big one that was not that long ago, but with like crowd surges and like stampedes and like people dying at these concerts.
They died of overdoses mostly.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, when I worked at Mass General and the Grateful Dead came to town, they would put on extra neurosurgeons and orthopedic doctors because people would fall out of the balconies, you know.
Oh boy.
They'd put on these long jams and people would be on acid and the Dead would just jam forever, and some people would just sort of nod off and not off the balcony.
Hey, could you say that they died gratefully? Ba-boom.
Got it, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they really were shamans of death.
Well, I tell you what, I can't say that, you know, I always enjoyed their concerts. There's a crapshoot. It was either really good or really awful.
Yeah. Based on what, like, whether the band was sober or not?
Well, based more on, you know, what they chose to do musically that night.
Oh, they would do a lot of jamming.
I wasn't into like 1 hour jams on one song, you know.
Yeah, that could be hit or miss for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when they go on for like 20 minutes.
No, that would go on for an hour and 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, man. So
and you know they'd be tripping because they'd just be meandering off, you know, not quite paying attention to the audience or
keep dropping the fucking drummer keeps dropping the sticks.
Two drummers, always.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That was the theory of the jam bands, like the Allman Brothers always had two drummers. And rock critics say that they had two drummers because they all did a lot of drugs and stuff, and when things started to get a little crazy on stage, at least you had some people that could keep the beat, you know?
Yeah.
Keep the beat going.
That's what they do in like Kill Tony a lot, and like shows where you just have like a little band introducing someone. You just have a little guitar just playing a little doop doop doop, but you got the going the whole time.
What's the show you're referencing?
It's called Kill Tony. It's an interesting one because it's a live open mic comedy podcast. So there's Tony and a few like panel guests, whoever, you know, on the stage, hosting the podcast, and they'll bring someone from the audience on to do a minute of stand-up. And, you know, anyone just puts their hat in the ring, and they have a few regulars. But it's, you really see, I think, comedy at its most foundational, because some of it is like the most cringiest stand-up you'll ever see. I mean, there's good ones for sure, but it really hits the whole spectrum. And after their 1 minute, you know, even if that person sucked, they'll spend like 5 to 10 minutes, the panel, just roasting and interviewing that person. So, you know, if the set is terrible, they'll be like, you should fucking quit now. How long have you been doing this? 8 years! Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay.
You know, so they'll...
And this is a visual podcast?
So, it is video recorded, so if you go on YouTube, you can watch the show.
Kill Tony?
Yeah, it's released as a podcast as well, but I'll just send you a random episode sometime. I'll send you that and the Alex Jones hipster song.
Okay. Is Kill Tony, though, an actual podcast, or is it like a TV show?
It's a podcast. It's considered.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not on, like, you can't flip to channel 5 and it'll be there.
Right. Okay, got it. How was your trip back home, Ben? Back on the homestead?